And I'd like to begin my remarks today by quoting one of my predecessors who wrote, "For those who are engaged in social work, the present is very real. Scores of problems crowd into every day, demanding an immediate solution. Such problems as the relationship of wages to poverty, workers' compensation, minimum wage legislation, social insurance, prevention and relief of unemployment." Now, those are not the words of Father Brian Hare or Father Fred Kammer, who were recently familiar faces here in these hallowed halls. Those are the words of Monsignor John O'Grady, who headed up this office for over 40 years, and he wrote them in 1930 as the Church formulated its response to the Great Depression. In fact, Monsignor O'Grady helped to fashion the original legislation that established Social Security, which, I might add, has been the most successful anti-poverty program this country has ever adopted. But unfortunately, his words sound all too familiar today. Dorothy Brown and Elizabeth McKeon have written a book that chronicles the history of Catholic Charities and the American welfare system, and it is entitled "The Poor Belong to Us." We are here today because that statement is very true. The poor do belong to us, but not just to Catholic Charities, to all of us, because they are our brothers and sisters, and they are our fellow citizens. Today, we are here to officially release our new publication, Poverty in America, A Threat to the Common Good. And along with releasing the paper, we are also launching Catholic Charity USA's campaign to reduce poverty in America. We are calling upon policymakers, faith-based groups, civic leaders, and concerned citizens to make a systematic and concerted effort to cut poverty in this country in half by the year 2020. This publication and the accompanying campaign is our way of saying that we are going to hold ourselves and those we work with accountable to making reducing poverty a priority. In the new paper, we revisit many of the principles established by the bishops 20 years ago. The purpose of this briefing is to officially release our new paper, but we also want to review some of the work being done in our agencies, to introduce our policy agenda for the 110th Congress, and to kick off this new anti-poverty campaign. Today, I want to provide an opportunity for some of our agencies to discuss their work in serving poor families and what challenges they are seeing in communities across our country. We also want to hear from one of the families that Catholic Charities has helped and to see how poverty impacts real people every day. So let me now introduce my fellow speakers. They will speak in this order. First of all, Janet Valente-Pape, who's the Executive Director of Catholic Charities of Wichita and is also the Board Chair of the Board of Trustees of Catholic Charities USA. Ronald Jackson is the Executive Director of the Catholic Conference for the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. Stephanie Baldwin is a consumer of Catholic Charities, or was a consumer of Catholic Charities services in Trenton, New Jersey. And Maureen Murphy is an Associate Division Manager of Catholic Charities of Chicago, Lake County Services.
Thinking and acting differently, coupling moral outrage with undeterred political will, we can implement this vision crafted by our Catholic bishops in their 1986 pastoral letter on economic justice, restoring a lost focus on the common good, a floor of material well-being on which we all can stand. Yes, it can be so in the United States of America.
There was a little program called the Neighborhood Youth Corps. And everybody's familiar with that. Neighborhood Youth Corps gave jobs to kids after school, young people, kept us off the streets. When it came time for me to go to college, my oldest brother, I'm the fifth of six kids, and my oldest brother was just going into his senior year at Dillard University in New Orleans. And I remember my father, the only time I really saw him really sad, I mean, he actually cried. He said, "Son, I can't send you to school." So, I said, "Dad, don't worry about it." You know why? Because I think I got an answer. I said, I have saved $633.38 And that was from working in the neighborhood youth corps. And I think as we listening to the debate on minimum wage increase, I think the minimum wage at that time may have been 75 cents an hour. And the tuition at Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi at that time was $133 a quarter. So I took that $633.38 and I worked it to pay a tuition of about maybe $400 for that year, and the rest became history. It was a way for me to get started, and I say it was a way to lift me out of poverty. So I feel like I can very well speak to this issue. The bottom line, as we debate and discuss some of the short-term solutions to poverty, I think you all would agree that in the long run, if we're able to educate our children, we can begin to break the continuous cycle of families who continue to live in a perpetuated state of poverty. Education is the key. I mean, I just shared my personal life story. And but for that opportunity that I had to be able to get a good education, it lifted me out of poverty. So I am very pleased, and I'm very proud that to be associated with this fight for poverty. I will walk these halls with you. I will beat on some desks. I will do whatever it takes so that we can make sure that the voice of those who are voiceless are really brought to the table.
My name is Stephanie Baldwin, and just 4 years ago, I was homeless and trying to care for my then infant Fortunately for me and my son Stephen, Catholic Charities in Trenton put us in their transitional housing program, which gave me the opportunity to go back to school and to work part-time while my son attended preschool. Transitional housing is an extremely helpful program that affords people like me the opportunity to shelter and stabilize my family in order to pursue employment and training and to become self-sufficient. How many of us know about the borrow from Peter to pay Paul system? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm gonna just do a little interactive because this is my story, and that's my process throughout the year. So in our lives now, how many of us do that maybe once a year? Raise your hand. The borrow from Peter to pay Paul, just once a year. Raise your hand. How many of us twice a year? I know, because Christmas and Thanksgiving really put a dent in our pockets. So 3 times a year, raise your hands. 4 times a year, raise your hands. Come on, you all can do it too. 5 times a year. Some of us do it 12 months out of the year. Borrow from Paul to pay Mary, and we feel like we can't ever catch up. With a net monthly income of $13.20, I must use nearly half of it just to cover a monthly rent of $525, with daycare at $250 a month, electricity and gas averaging $150 a month throughout the year. There is little left over for gas, groceries, and other necessities such as visits to the doctors. And to make matters worse, every assistance program has told me, and is still telling me, that I earn too much money, so they cannot assist me.
Low-wage jobs are the most significant reason why people come seek assistance from Catholic Charities. More people than ever before are working, yet for some, working full-time, year-round is not enough to lift a family out of poverty. Most jobs available to welfare recipients do not pay a living wage, and former recipients enter the class of working poor rather than achieving self-sufficiency. Families lacking basic necessities are concerned with their day-to-day survival and often must make choices between buying food, paying the rent, or purchasing medications. In Lake County, as in other locations, there is a critical shortage of affordable housing. An individual needs to earn over $17 per hour, 40 hours per week, in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Lake County. This equates to 133 hours per week at minimum wage.
And we have a lot of members of our Catholic partners who are here with us, and I want to especially acknowledge them. And as I read off your organization, if you would come up and stand with us, I just think so that folks can see that this is a great group. And I'll start with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. We have 2 representatives. If you'll come up and stand. The Catholic Campaign for Human Development. the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, the Ladies of Charity of the United States, the Catholic Schools of Social Work, the Conference of Major Superiors of Men, the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, Catholic Health Association, Network, and Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good. I hope I've got everybody who's here, but as you can see, this is quite an array of organizations, all of us working towards this goal. So I want to especially thank them for their partnership with us in this goal. Thank you.